So, guess who got a new dress today? That would be me. And because we're gonna be talking about vampires, and vampires tend to be very vain creatures, I thought it was entirely fitting to force myself to record two videos today because I simply wanted to wear it for a little bit longer. And, when the day goes away, I will get to take it off and put it to wash like you do with clothing. Therefore, I really wanted to enjoy it, and because of it, I'm slightly sleep deprived. And as it's very hard to show off any kind of clothing in this kind of setting, brief flash, just for narcissism's sakes. That's the full dress. I really like it. Anyway, back to vampires. So, I have done a video previously where I have ranked all of the bloodlines available in Vampire the Masquerade, which, if you're not familiar with the setting, is more like subclasses than actual like classes. And there's a lot. So that video was about 2 hours long, and it took me about 5 hours to do proper research on it. Well, as I have already done that, why don't I rank just the regular classes? Now, something to note is that I'm very, very bad at fitting everything into a neat image. Therefore, let me just switch off my camera. Poor Ventru kind of got squished in there. I started by putting them on the sheet in like a fairly big script with like their imagery next to it and a bit of notes about what I think about the clans. And by the time I reached the bottom of my right side of the image that I was making, I was like, whoopsie daisy, there is more clans than there is space. So there's 5 clans lining the bottom. Torador just kind of gets to not fit on the screen properly, even because, yeah, we're good at this. We're very good at this. What are you saying that we're not good at this? Of course, we're very good at this. There we go. Now, Torador properly fits on screen, and Ventry got quite a bit squashed there, so it's not the best image. Anyway, as I ranked Bloodlines, as I said, this is my personal opinions. I tend to rank things based on my personal interest in them, how much I would like to play them, whether I find them basic or interesting, and therefore it is not a scientific ranking of any sort. Either way, though, I did like an hour's worth of research, so I wrote down some base points about each clan just to make sure that I'm representing them correctly to you. So you will understand what I'm talking about, even if you don't play Vampire the Masquerade but play other tabletops. But you may disagree with my rankings, so that's just a warning. Without further ado, let's start actually ranking the clans, which is like classes inside Vampire the Masquerade. It's like the main kind of, how you choose whether you want to be like a barbarian or a warrior. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you choose here. You choose a clan, and that's like your class, and that dictates what abilities you have access to. At the very least at the start of the game. Afterwards, if you gain teachers or eat another vampire, you can definitely buy other type of abilities. But in general, your clan kind of outlines, what you're playing with and dictates the rules that you're following when you're playing. So let's start from Banu Hakeim. Banu Hakeim is an isolated clan that mostly stayed in the hidden fortress in the Middle East. They can serve multiple purposes. They had sorcerers, they had judges, later on known as warriors, and viziers. That viziers tended to be obsessive, compulsive artist people, and they tended to the mortal herd. So effectively other vampires' blood supply. They were their PR face. Now, their strong points is that they're multifaceted, which means that your character is not squished into an archetype. from the very beginning. Like, you could decide that they were a sorcerer, they can decide that they were a warrior, that, you know, they can decide that they can be like a pretty prissy perfectionist artist person. And yeah, you can do all of that because your clan has access to all of that. So that they're like an all-rounder instead of a specialized thing. Also, because they were placed in the Middle East, quite a large amount of Banu Hakeim follow Islam. So if you wanted to play an Islamic vampire, this is most likely the clan that you would go with. Now, outside of that setting, for the outside vampires, they were mostly known as like assassins for hire. You can still play them with that intention, but like version 5 of the game kind of, you know, brought them out into the bigger public, so you can play once again a more rounded character that stays around for the whole campaign, and it's not just like some random assassin that the game master pulled out from like the corner that like did a mission and then fucked off again. So, every single vampire type, every single vampire clan, just like a class, suffers from like a specific thing that they either must do or must not do, or like the vampiric curse affects them in different ways. For Banu Hakeim, they have problems stopping drinking from another vampire when they have started drinking from another vampire. Therefore, they are likely to eat the vampire, and that's pretty bad in vampire society. Also, there is this thing called compulsion, which is what happens when you kind of botch your rolls. Then the storyteller says that your character is suffering from compulsion, and normally you take penalties until you do like this very specific action that's specific to your clan, or in other words, class. So for Banu Hakeim, they have a compulsion to steal blood from those that violate the Banu Hakeim's personal moral rules. Like, they wanna judge that one, and they wanna judge it with making them lose blood, and you can see how that plays into I can't stop eating this vampire thing that the clan has going on for them. Now, I will say I don't actually hate any of the clans in Vampire the Masquerade. It would be very hard for me to give any of them a F rating, but at the same time, I don't love the basic bloodlines, like the basic clans, all that much, because basic classes kind of get boring when you get used to playing them. I don't know, should I put Banu Hakeim personally into D tier or C tier? Oh yeah, I didn't mention, they have access to these abilities. They have access to Celerity, which is Vampire go fast, and Vampire do actions fast. Actually really useful and potent. Obfuscate, which is Vampire go invisible. And they used to have access to their own little discipline called Quietus, but now it's more generic blood sorcery, which is they can do the magics. I would probably personally never play Banu Hakeim due to their ties to the Middle East and me not feeling very connected to said culture in any way, shape, or form. That, and I don't really feel attracted to characters that can do many different things, because technically you will still like pick one and specialize either way. And normally would still kind of do that at character creation, so their main selling point just ends up falling flat for me. So I will give Banu Hakeim, which should probably be in white because otherwise we're not gonna see them, the D tier. I'm gonna give them the D, but that's once again my personal player preferences. They don't need to be the same as yours, just saying. So moving on, Bruha. Bruha were formerly the cold, calculated, learned philosopher clan. Now, mostly they're known for their rebels and rebelliousness. Like, think anarchy, think, F the police and F control and F government, think punk rock, that sort of thing. They're that, but like as a vampire clan slash class. For abilities, they have access to celerity, which is once again vampire go fast, potence, which is a vampire hit hard, and presence, which is vampire seems unnaturally radiating and attractive, and you really want to pay attention to them right now. Bruha are quick to anger and struggle to resist frenzies. Frenzies is when you lose complete control of your vampire and the character runs off and normally eats or runs away from danger. It's a bit like an autopilot, like a very bestial autopilot, and most of the times when you will be failing a frenzy will be if your vampire hasn't eaten anything, and then he just like noms the nearest thing that they can nom. Or if your vampire faces something that they could like really fear, like fire, and in that case, their character might just fail to resist the fear roll and then just run away. The rest of your buddies will be left to fight that encounter while your character's fleeing, screaming. As a compulsion, they want to rebel from their orders or any resemblance of authority at all. I'm gonna be nice and give them the basic bitches tier. But they're strong. They're strong to play, but honestly, fuck authority. I am the biggest anarch of that has ever anarched, and I have like an updo hair. It's not my thing, and it's not really a thing that I would like ever wanna play, really. It's not something that appeals to me as a character. Like, celerity and potence, move fast, hit hard, you're gonna be like trashing all encounters. You are hell of a strong on the punchy punch force. You're just not very elegant, I want to say, or all that intelligent. You're just, the thug that hangs out in the streets and gets street cred, which totally can be a vibe if that's your vibe. That's not my vibe. Next up is Gangrel, which is wannabe druid, if you come from any other games. They're wanderers that are closer to their beast and to nature than to people. They have access to animalism, which is me communicate with animal, me get animal to do thing for me. Fortitude, which is my skin be very tough, yo. You are more likely to break your fist on my face than my face is to break. And protein, which is vampire grow claws or vampire transform into an animal, not to be confused with potence, which is vampire hit hard. They won't necessarily hit hard, but they can totally scratch you. So there's that. Like, they can just suddenly be like, Tiger Claw! Or they can transform themselves into a wolf. Like, there's obviously limitations, and there's bigger descriptions of, like, what each invested, like, XP dot into said ability does, but that's just how I'm breaking it down. When they frenzy, which is once again vampire gets scared or vampire be hungry, and so vampire no longer control their body, they gain an animal feature that lingers for one more night afterwards. So they might start smelling like a dog, or they might grow whiskers. As a compulsion, they can suffer issues returning to human form and take a penalty to intelligence and manipulation rolls. and can only speak in one-word sentences, aka they kind of they still stick to being a bit of an animal, like you just returned from being a dog and you can't stop wanting to scratch your ears with your back legs, that sort of thing. And you know what? Druids are really cool with me. I do like. They're hard to play in a social setting because Gangrel aren't very social type of class to play. Like, they don't really fit in neatly with any of like the bigger groups. Like there's Camarilla, there's Anarchs, there's Sabat. Gangrel don't really fit anywhere. They're kind of they are your regular druid. That's kind of, sticking to the forest and is not very much at home in city politics. I don't know what to say. Anyway, druids are cool with me. I play druids quite often in games. I have not rolled or played Gangrel in the game yet, just because there are other choices that are a bit more fun for me. But they're like a solid choice. If, you know, talk with animal dudes that can grow tiger claws, yeah, I totally dig that a lot more than the punk thug kids or the we can do everything inside the Middle East, but mostly we were just assassins until we got brought into the bigger game with the newest edition people. Okay. Moving on to Hikata, which is a grouping, a very loose grouping of all subclasses, bloodlines, that used to be kind of involved with necromancy. Now, all of those subclasses individually are kind of interesting. As a loose grouping, it's identity-less. I want to say that their most prominent identity would still kind of probably be Giovanni, just because that is the part of the subgroup of a grouping that people would be most familiar to and therefore probably play most often, which is your Italian mafioso necromancers, which is cool. That premise is very cool, but yeah, the lost. When you take a whole bunch of different things and you group them based on can do necromancy, they lose a lot of that like subtext flavor. And they become kind of, bland. So they have access to Auspex, which is can see aura or other supernatural stuff. Fortitude, which is vampire skin strong, hard to break, and Oblivion, which is we can interact with the ghosty realm. Their current bane is that their bite is incredibly painful. Like, normally, the bite of a vampire in this setting is supposed to be great. Like, best thing ever. It makes you feel amazing. Like, you're screwing the vampire with all of your blood at the same time. It's super awesome. Well, with Hikata, they kind of cannot do that. When they bite, everything screeches at them. So yeah, they have to deal with that. And as a compulsion, they get very preoccupied with death and the health status of anyone and everyone around them. So if you have a mole, they will start checking you for cancer right there and then. I'm gonna give Hikata a B. I do like my necromancers. But as I said, the issue is that you took a whole bunch of like subclasses that were very interesting on their own. If you want, you can go to me ranking the subclasses or bloodlines video. It's gonna be mentioned in the description down below to see me ranking the expanded list, which includes a lot of subclasses that then got, rolled into one Hikata, they in themselves are very interesting. They as a combination that was just given a, same bane and same compulsion, they'd be pretty boring. So necromancy's cool, but it's cool that got downgraded. Let's just say it like that. So moving on to Lassombra, which is ruthless wannabe rulers, but also like every goth kid's dream. They do loads of shadow magic, a lot of things with shadow tentacles, and they have issues being seen in mirrors or using modern technology. That is their bane. Their soul is like half sucked into the abyss, so all images of them kind of distort. Microphones do not cooperate. Technology is hard to operate. Like, if you need them to, I don't know, finish shopping in a store with like one of those automated self-checkouts, and they have like a little camera looking at them the whole time, that the whole machine might just really explode from Lassombra trying to use it. So that's not very good. And yeah, they have issues with their own reflections. In some editions, if I remember correctly, they don't cast like a reflection at all, and they cannot like be seen in mirrors. I don't know if that's still true in V5, but either way, like having your soul be half inside Oblivion apparently kind of makes you not very good with the being perceived by surfaces thing or operating machinery. I don't know where that was going. So, for abilities, I am just making sure I definitely read the abilities of other clans. I'm pretty sure I did. For abilities to have access to dominate, which is, I say a command, you do that command. Like, I am kind of hypnotizing your brain to obey me. Potence, which is hit hard. Vampire hit hard. And Obtenebration / Oblivion. So Obtenebration used to be its own shadow tentacly thing, where you could manipulate mostly people's shadows, you could teleport through shadows, you could see through shadows, you can summon shadow tentacles and all other fun shadow beasties. And the realm that you're connected, the abyss, is just really, really black and goth. According to the lore, that realm kind of fell through into the ghosty realm, so now they have access to Oblivion, which technically means that a necromancer can do the shadowy shit, and Lassombra can do the ghosty necromancy shit. They, in general, won't, but just saying there's a potential there. And their compulsion is that failure is not an option, and they will become increasingly ruthless until they succeed. Now, every goth kid's dream, I don't know, have you seen me lately? Has to. Lassombros have to just go to S tier. I suspect they're not going to be the only things at S tier, but Lassombros, they have to be up there. Next up, Mavian, which is the bottom corner. Well, at the very least, it's not like Venture and Torador. They're completely covered by me right now. But they're over there. They're hanging out in their own bottom corner. They are mad people with the ability to see the future. Think you're psychic. Think like a lady that's too much into throwing bones or tarot cards, that receives visions, that like commutes with the other side, but also quite unhinged, really. Their bane is that they have one mental affliction of some sort. This gets... They're both cool and a bit horrible to ever approach. So in any modern iteration of the game company that created the clans to begin with just tries to avoid approaching them entirely. Mostly because mental affliction of some sort tends to require to be a real mental illness. Seeing visions in a game is fun and everything, but when you try to roleplay something like an actual mental condition, be it schizophrenia, be it obsessive compulsive disorder, be it depression, it gets a lot less fun because you are bringing a lot of real world shit into places where it doesn't feel like it belongs. So, on one hand, playing a Delulu character that's up there is a lot of fun. On the other hand, there's that kind of completely discourages you from ever taking this class and playing it to begin with. And their compulsion is that their perception becomes skewed from either visions that they're having or their imagination running wild. And for a while, they struggle making any kind of like make sense rolls, the mental rolls, because they are lost in their own Delulu land. They have access to Auspex, which is, see all of that supernatural aura ghosty shit. Obfuscate, which is me go hide, vampire no longer visible, and they used to have access to Dementate, which is I inflict mental issues upon you, and I drive you mad. And now they have access to Dominate, which is more of a you do as I say, and it is now kind of like a side direction of Dominate, but that technically means that people that actually can say do as I say, like Lassombra, can actually drive somebody mad, or that your mad character can actually issue a legitimate command. When the people that created this tabletop system merged everything into one, they didn't necessarily think it through too much. Let's just put it that way. So, anyway, I'm giving them B tier. They're actually one of my favorite things to play in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, just because it changes a lot of flavor text in the game. It changes how you respond to situations. Using Dementate in conversations is really fun. But in a tabletop setting, because their bane has to be real world mental illness, it becomes a character that I'm very turned off from actually taking. If I was to give a suggestion for the people that made the system, make them more fun and less real, which is, they can suffer from funny things. They can, suffer from funny visions. Don't make me put a real world mental illness tag on it, and definitely don't make me roleplay a real life mental illness. Exactly. That's kind of depressing. That is not fun. Moving on. Next up, we have the Ministry, which is a group of cultists that worship Set. Set as in the god Set. They used to practice corruption and deceit as a way to lay way to Set coming back and devouring the world. And bad guy faction, if you haven't figured it out. Currently, though, in the most recent iteration, they are allied to Anarchs and will serve as both the local preachers, do the good thing and let me upkeep your moral things, and also suppliers of dirty things like drugs due to the whole corruption thing. Presumably, they allied themselves with Anarchs because all of the sects started fighting and they were like, holy shit, being alone is not the best thing to do right now. They also rebranded themselves to the Ministry instead of followers of Set, because they're now less outwardly worshipy of Set and more like, I am the physical expression of Set, babe. But that doesn't really make anything better because they're still like out there to corrupt and eat the world. So that still registers as an extra bad guy for me. That probably shouldn't belong to playable factions unless you bring other bad guys as playable factions. Just like give me Bali back, and I'll let the Ministry go. They have access to Obfuscate, which is Vampire Go Invisible. Presence, which is look at me, I'm awesome. And Serpentitis, which used to be an ability that like focused on, well, getting closer to and transforming yourself into snake and snake-like things. But in order to simplify the systems, in the newest one, they just have access to protein, which is a vampire grow animal features, or vampire turn into animal. I suppose they decided that those two are close enough, which is, at this point, actually fair enough. Their bane is that they recoil from direct light, so they can't be in any kind of direct light. They're like an extra shy goth, just always skulking in the shadow over there. Whatever you do, don't shine a flashlight on them. It's like the worst thing ever. No matter is it artificial or not. And their compulsion is to convince others to break their moral code. I don't get them, as I don't think that they a strong clan make. And once again, when it comes to clan, it's hard for me to think of an F tier or an E tier, so I'm gonna be throwing them down to D to hang out with the not quite assassins. Assassins slash Middle Eastern people slash we can do everything that you can do, but probably not better. You guys can have a party. I don't really recognize you as legitimate clans, but whatever. Somebody's gonna enjoy playing you, and that's all that matters. Nosferatu, which is like one of the OG vampires, they'd be physically deformed by their vampirism, yo. And yeah, they're kind of, quite a lot of them are modeled after the vampire movie called Nosferatu, where you had like a really tall, bald man with creepy teeth. They are very good at spying. They love using the sewer system. They were like top-notch hackers and data system keepers for the Vampire Society until mortal technology got banned because mortals got too much information after, one of those software systems inevitably broke down, and everybody, all of the facilities that shouldn't have known anything about vampires suddenly learned a lot of things about night vampires. So Nosferatu's kind of had a bit of an oopsie there, but like effectively they are the deformed type of vampire that kind of scuttles underground together with all the rats in sewers and all other secret little bunkers and passageways, and they're good at keeping secrets and getting secrets and using secrets as a currency, really. So they have access to animalism, which is a vampire make animal do things, vampire communicate with animal, obfuscate, which is vampire go invisible, really good for collecting secrets in this, and potence, which is vampire hit hard. Their bane is that they're repulsive and can never look better than repulsive. They can't invest any dots into their looks whatsoever. No matter what, they will always be counted as a go. And their compulsion is to find out a secret pronto. And I played a couple of Nosferatu characters. And I took the find out the secret pronto thing to some funny places, like analyzing people's private parts pics in order to find out if they have a venereal disease or not. Yeah, that's the find out a secret pronto can be played in quite funny ways, because that can totally count as a secret, because it's something that they wouldn't want you to know. So anyways, S tier, I am not gonna argue about that one, sorry. It's just, it's there. It's at S tier. They're an OG vampire. A very, yes. They're yes. Do you need any other no, just yes. Moving on to Ravnos. Ravnos are known as wandering tricksters, mystics, and vagabonds. Their clan was kind of based on travelers. People don't like this word, but it helps you separate from, like, wandering people that came from India versus Irish travelers, which is gypsies. They were based on those in particular. Caravans, thievery, and everything else that's kind of very stereotypical, just like thrown and made into a clan. They have access to animalism, which is vampire communicate with animal, vampire make animal do thing. Chemistry, which is vampire perform illusions on you. They make you see what is not there. And fortitude, which is vampire skin thick. But currently, instead of having the awesome vampire make you see things that are on their ability, they get animalism, which is vampire communicate with animal and make animal do thing. Obfuscate, which is vampire go invisibrew, and presence, which is look at me. For their bane, they need to sleep at least a mile away from their previous location every night, and they cannot sleep in the same location for a week, or else they will wake up taking a lot of aggravated damage as if the sun has been burning them. Their compulsion is to be a daredevil and solve issues in the most daring and dangerous way. Now, honestly, chemistry, the whole trickster archetype, kind of dig it. To a newer version, don't dig it so much. Basing them on travelers is a bit of an iffy decision. So if we are talking about, the chemistry version of like, ooh, you can be a funny mystic sort of thing, I would have given them a C tier, but considering that currently they have lost that uniqueness to animalism, obfuscate, and presence, I am just gonna outright give them an E tier. I do not see myself playing a Ravnos. Ever. Once again, you're free to disagree, but that doesn't sound like a good time to me. Once again, you're free to disagree. Next up, Torador, which is the emotional types, the beautiful types, the artistic types, every theater kid you have ever known in your life. Effectively, everyone that didn't go to study science, they kind of went to study, arts and crafts and music and that stuff. They're super into beauty. They are so sensitive and easy to hurt, especially their emotional little fifis. They have access to Auspex, which is vampire see supernatural thing like auras, celerity, which is vampire move fast, and presence, which is look at me. Their bane is that they suffer in the absence of beauty and perform worse on their roles. Their compulsion is that they become obsessed over a singular beautiful thing and are unable to act or do anything outside of admiring it. Honestly, the Vizier cast on Banu Hakeim, once I had to rank the whole class, so I ranked it low, but the Vizier class of the cast on Banu Hakeim, they have that artist aspect, but they have an added tortured artist aspect because they're very obsessive compulsive about their art, which makes them a bit like Torador on drugs. I think that sounds kind of a bit more interesting. Now, celerity, a very strong discipline, uh, getting mesmerized by things that are beautiful or like complaining about things not being beautiful and being a very vain person can be extremely fun to play. But not gonna lie, mates, it's a bit boring. Like they're they're a caricature of a shallow person. Like I don't think that a person can be that shallow in real life, and that's coming from a person that flashed an image of their dress at the start of this video. I said it's gonna be perfect. It's the perfect video to do this in. Um so I don't hate it, but there are things that I would like to play more than a Torador, and my brain work weird. So trying to play a Nosferatu like a Toreador of, oh, I am so into art, and I'm gonna make you see me as beautiful despite the fact that I am entirely, completely repulsive and can never raise my look stat. That to me, that speaks to my soul so much more than just, I'm the vain and pretty type, and I'm so pretty, and that's my claim to fame. Once again, it's not like a commentary on people that do pageants or anything else. It's a caricature played up in a vampire game, and that can be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. But there are other things that I have more fun playing, hence why they get the C tier. Now, compared, they are kind of easier for me to play than a Malkavian, but there's a lot less playstyles that you can take here because, well, what they are at the base, so they're kind of the less interesting one. I am sorry. Tremere, they are the mages. They're slightly weird, kind of introverted. Your nerdy kids that really wanted to finish their homework and would remind the teacher when they didn't give you enough homework. We're super into occult. We're like super into occult orders, like think the Golden Dawn. Anything that's like tiered and that has like a system of authority, that sort of thing. They can be kind of neurotic, and they were very tied to their orderly organization of vampires that worked like a pyramid scheme. Until said organization got shattered by the at least we're pretty sure in lore wise that their founder got murdered and that's what did it. But there's also an implication that he could have jumped bodies and just, his body died, his soul lived on, that sort of thing. So it's a bit of a muddy thing, but anyway, that their whole organization thing just kind of fell through. They have access to Auspex, which is vampire C thing, like auras. Dominate, which is a vampire tell you to do a thing, and you definitely do that thing, okay? And thaumaturgy / blood sorcery, which is practically the same. Like thaumaturgy was a type of blood sorcery, it kind of got simplified to just blood sorcery. Their bane currently is that they're unable to create blood bonds with other vampires through regular means. Like normal vampires, if they feed the blood of themselves to another vampire, that other vampire suddenly feels like they really like them. And if they do this 3 times, like 3 nights in a row, not all at once, you can't do it all at once, then that other vampire is like super in love and super obsessed with you and will listen to everything that you say. And that's like a big mechanic inside the game. Slip your blood to somebody like a roofie. Except in a slightly less extreme way, because you need to do it 3 times on 3 consecutive nights. And their compulsion is wait, did I finish that sentence? I hope that I did. I'm a bit sleep deprived right now, I'm sorry. So they can't do that. They can't their blood do not do that anymore. And their compulsion is perfectionism. They need to score a critical success, or else until the scene ends, they will labor under a dice penalty, being totally absorbed by what they're doing. Like, they just, whatever they're doing must be perfect. It absolutely must be perfect. I like the nerdy archetype, but like, not to a point where I absolutely love it, but it is definitely like um the kind of vampire clan that I can't see myself playing. Like, I think it can be fun for like a game or two. So I'm gonna put Tremere inside B tier. They can hang out with slightly watered down necromancers and slightly real mental illness, reminding people, cool, this is a great tier. Anyway, Zemisi, which is cold, sadistic, polite, and intelligent flesh grafters. They have a deep history in Eastern Europe. Think Dracula, think Romania, that sort of thing. They love building things out of flesh. Think cathedral bones. And they're like very much into social etiquette. So they're gonna be a great host for the allotted amount of days that they're supposed to be a great host to your ass. And after that, they might not become such a great host anymore. So don't overstay your welcome. They have access to animalism, which is vampire speak to animal, vampire make animal do thing. Auspex, which is vampire see invisible thing, like auras. Or vicissitude, which was their unique flesh crafting thing. It allowed them to transform their own bodies into whatever monstrosity that they wanted. So if you really wanted a rhinoceros head, go ahead. If you really wanted like fingers twice as long as normal, go ahead. If you really wanted to melt your own hand into your neck, go ahead. They would also use that on other things. So think building a flesh cathedral, think making a ball out of 20 butts. If you can think it, you can do it. If it's a flesh thing, that's a flesh thing. But now, instead, they have animalism, which is vampire talk to animal, vampire make animal do things, dominate, which is vampire order you to do thing and you do that thing because vampire order it very well, and protein, which is vampire take on animalistic qualities, and vicissitude is a bit of a combination between dominate and protein, which is it opens some once again holes where classes that shouldn't have access to this can technically have access to this. But anyways, Zeniti are pretty cool. So C tier. Where we're not gonna argue with that. Like, give me that Eastern European aristocrat that put people's heads on spikes and melted their fleshes into a flesh monstrosity while still being like super polite to your face. Yeah, that one. That one I like. It's a guaranteed S tier. And last but not least, my poor squishy baby. Like, let me switch out my camera because it's been a while, so you may have forgotten. See that poor squishy baby? That one. That's the one we're talking about right now. Ventru, which is rich people, leaders, kings, rich and ambitious people. Think like CEOs. They have access to dominate, fortitude, and presence. So, me say a thing, you do a thing. Me skin tough. Look at me! Those abilities. Their bane is that they can feed only from certain kind of people because they are picky eaters by nature. So you can only eat from humans with brown eyes. You can only eat with humans that are on the left on the political spectrum. You can only eat from humans that are dying from stage 4 cancer. That can be like as specific as you want it to be, but they're picky eaters. You can't eat from anything else. You're just gonna vomit it back up. which is not very nice. Their compulsion is that they must force another vampire to obey them. They're just like, you have to do what I say because I feel bad about myself, and I'm not gonna feel better about myself until you do what I say. And they kind of can feel kind of basic, and I would want to like squish them into B tier. But listen, I'm playing one in a campaign right now, and I'm having a blast. Sometimes, like when you take the CEO to vampire, but like reduce it to you're an office worker with an overblown ego that's struggling to do all the thing and make it vampire, it actually gets pretty fun. So, for that reason, totally an A. Again, an A from me. So, really sleep deprived right now. Thank you very much. I don't know why I'm thanking you. That was a decision that I made. Anyway, how did I do? Do you agree or disagree? How would you rank all of these 13 clowns yourself? Does this make Vampire the Masquerade as a tabletop setting a bit more clear? Because they tried to translate Vampire the Masquerade tabletop setting specific words to like normal spoken language as best as I could. I hope I did a good job. If you liked this video, please check around what else I've made. If you like stuff like this, then subscribe. Perhaps you can even write what kind of content you want to see. And like, I might, I might take suggestions. I'm not saying that I will, but I might. So, thank you for all of that. My Windows is trying to restart on me right now. Great. I hope I'm gonna see you in my other videos. Thank you for my Patreon subscribers for being wonderful people and for giving me money and for allowing me to do videos like these and also buy some video games, which I also do on this channel. It's great. Fantastic. And I hope I'm gonna see you on my other videos. Toodaloo!